Okay, we're going to do that. We don't have to go through that again, but yes, I agree, Drew. I'm just going to start recording every single one.
Recording in that way. And then when you have to say something, private, type it in the little message, not the chat, because that Zoom is recording now, but like in the iMessage, be like, I need to say something off color over here.
You would think about all that, yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, Leon, it's interesting. We're all in kind of our own biz dev modes. So the more that, in my opinion, the more that we can, cross-reference this and with each other and that kind of thing. I think I was saying, I keep saying what is the saying? It's the sum is greater than the parts. The whole is greater than the parts or whatever. Yeah.
The whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's what's so, I think that if we can get people to come to our salon.
That's not it. The sum of the parts is greater than the whole.
Okay.
Actually, who even knows? I think it's the sum of the parts is greater than the whole.
Not sure who's attributed to having said that, but it comes from Gestalt theory. So yeah.
Gestalt. Okay. Yeah. All right.
The phrase "the whole is greater than the sum of its parts" was first coined by Aristotle.
Oh.
All right. I guess I did have it right.
It goes back a ways.
So the thing that I'm so excited about this upcoming salon, the Ask Me Anything salon, is exactly what I just experienced with this group this morning. And I'm really excited to have these conversations, just riffing off things like data governance and, Carrie, you mentioning 5 of the top 10, data governance rules, the most important things. Did I get that right, Leon? It's 5 of the top 10. Is it data governance rules? Yeah.
What happened is that it's part of data governance. Once you do this initial works of doing the data inventory, right? And then like Carrie said, come up with kind of like set goals. What do you want to, how do you say it again, Carrie? Is like, what do you want to focus on, right? If you want to focusing on, I forgot, Carrie, you got to help me here. You said so much better. but what you try to solve, right? Once you know what you're trying to solve, then you can go back and look at your data. Which one I should keep? Which one is a time bomb, right? And those things should be outlined after we finish initial works, creating a roadmap, creating data inventory. I mean, this is the stuff that AI console should not do, right? You hire somebody else, could be us, right? We go in there and then, start listing all of where you get your data. Is this third party or you create it yourself? Did you buy this thing? Or, how do you handle, like missing data, for example? All of those things is part of data cataloging, metadata, and all of this nice stuff. By the way, surprisingly, there's a list of tools that we can install for free, and I can provide those 5 tools that anybody, if you want to, it's open source. You can install it in your company server. And what happened is that it's a standard tools of data cataloging, data metadata, data road mapping, and all of this stuff. So there's an organization currently, collaboratively building these tools that allow us to do kind of standardization on data inventory, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
I was like, I thought out early, but I was like, wait, I'm already behind. So about 2 years ago, ever since ChatGPT coming out, people from the open source industry right now is building these tools. Now you can buy that from the IBM, you can buy from Microsoft Azure and so forth. You can do that, but for the Wasco team or like more like a government organization with a somewhat limited budget, perhaps open source tools better, right? You don't need to be super duper. This is I call it roadmap to ChatGPT. In actuality, it's the first step to be a data responsible organization, right? Because that's the foundation to build anything, not just ChatGPT. I think in a digital age, having a responsible, concern about data concern about your own data and how you store it, how you collect it, and so forth. It's so important. And I really like it when Carrie said that, like one of the things that, anonymize the PID, personal ID. That a lot of people just store everybody's address and so forth. One of the best practice, and I can get it, those document at least it is this like the 5 different steps that you should do every single time you start doing this data road mapping. Did you do this? Did you do this? Kind of checklist. And then while it's not make you available, ready for the next step for ChatGPT, it makes you prepare for beyond ChatGPT, right?
Well,
because I think the future will be AI.
Oh, for sure. And any organization with a software as a service, especially around sales and marketing practices, and I would guess HR, because they're using a lot of AI aided software out there. So it's not whether or not you use ChatGPT, it's whether you use software in your company, right? And I think that's really, I mean, Drew, the tools you use as a brand strategist and as a designer and a creative, they're all being aided by AI today, right?
Our latest work is, I mean, I've talked about this before, but new projects since then have come on that are fully AI based. We're using them intensely now.
Yeah. So all the more important for AI governance to be rooted in data governance and rooted in privacy and productivity. And those two things can really lead to trust and profitability, right? I think that's really important. So, yeah.
Maybe this situation with Taylor Swift will actually light a fire under someone.
Yeah.
Someone, Congress, anyone, Congress?
Yeah. Well, okay. Pardon me for saying so, but you've seen the backlash, and you've seen already the untruths that are out there around why Taylor Swift and why the Kansas City Chiefs and how the Super Bowl is going to be some sort of an announcement. And that's the problem with working and trying to be and do good in a polarized society that has lost trust and has lost the notion of truth, right? And so, we as governance leaders have to be a little bit brave sometimes and call what's happening, exactly for what it is. And that can be very uncomfortable, I think. I really think so. Because, you're right, Carrie, if Taylor Swift, of all people, who has the resources and the megaphone, can be blasted for her relationships or where she sits on the political spectrum, et cetera. Imagine any one of us trying to go into an organization where, people disagree with the fact that Janet has a she, her on her name badge, right? And this is happening across the globe, right? So it's going to take some, pardon my French, stones to be able to go out there and do this thing the right way, right?
Yeah.
And we're all
kind
set
of
up
like
for
the
that.
way Oregon was. When I moved to Oregon, everyone just went the speed limit, except the Californians. But everyone else, they just went the speed limit. Why? They don't want more government. They're like, if everyone just behaves themselves and goes the dang speed limit, then we don't have to have, what the law pulling us over on our way to work. And that took some getting used to as a Californian. I had to lose my lead foot. But I don't know, there was a sort of ethos, and I don't know if it still persists, from versus when I was there, but you self-governed and everyone just did what was right. And you didn't need someone to come in and tell you this is right and this is wrong. You know what's right and wrong. It's just what incentives do you have, and also what are your personal ethics and what kind of society do you want to live in?
Yeah, it's
Right.
really
you know?
interesting to think about the work that we're doing and to think about the personal side of, ethics and governance of yourself, and to
Yeah.
be able to communicate to the people that we're going to be talking with, our clients, all of our other audiences, to be able to communicate with them about the ideas that we're talking about, but also make clear to them that we're talking about it on a personal level. And I think too, the clients that we're going to be seeing are those clients that are seeing it on a personal level in amongst themselves and amongst their social structure, and then that's the reason they're going to come to us and say that they need help with this. They need help to be able to bring this around in their organization.
Yeah. I hope
Yeah, and
so.
the question is whether the tools are going to exist. So I have a situation right now where my doctor, I haven't on a new health plan. I had to get a new primary care physician, and they really want me to sign up for something called Follow My Health, which is a platform that they claim is very secure, which it's not private. That's a different issue. Security and privacy, different issues. When I actually read the terms of service, they can sell my deaggregated data to their marketing partners and this person and that person. So I'm declining to sign up for it, but you have medical offices encouraging their patients to sign up for this thing, telling them that it's secure, which is okay. That's nice. That's one thing I would like is security. I don't actually believe that it's secure, but that's a different issue. And
Yeah.
then they don't talk about the privacy aspect of it all. But what they want to do is they want to be able to put all your tests and everything instead of having to do it by phone or by email or whatever. They just want to upload everything to this portal, and the patient logs in and gets it. And while I love the convenience of that, I've been declining to be on Follow My Health since 2013 when a doctor first recommended it to me, a different health group, and I read the terms of service, and I got to the privacy section about them, how they can use my data, my de-aggregated, de-identified data, and I was just like, no, no, this is health data. You don't get shit from me on health
Right.
data, you know?
Yeah.
So this platform's out there, and this is the popular platform that everyone is pushing. And so there's a question about what tools, is it that we put pressure on somebody like Follow My Health to not sell that data? Or is that another competitor comes along and says, we don't do that, and everybody shifts over to that platform? Maybe people don't shift to that platform because the costs of changing to that are too great. So you get some of your people who are in there first who get away with murder. Now, I don't really know how to deal with something like that, where I'm a little concerned that the tools that are being developed with the vested interest in mind, and not, who's out there actually saying, like, a few, right? You got Proton Mail that's like, we don't do anything nefarious and we protect your privacy. How many people do you know with a Proton Mail address?
Right.
I know
Leon, you're
one.
excluded from answering this question, right?
Yeah.
I use
But
Tutanota. It's a German-based company, which also, they don't catalog anything. It hasn't been around as long. But I mean, how many people really are offering products that protect the citizen, the consumer, the human being, not the marketing product?
Right. We are the product. For So I'm writing this. I'm trying to write, and I will ask everyone for help, I'm sure. This presentation for the Risk conference that's coming up at the end of March, and the whole notion of the Magnificent Seven. The leading groups of organizations who are developing AI at scale, which are NVIDIA and Facebook and Apple and et cetera, et cetera. With the exception of Apple, most and NVIDIA, most of these organizations have been proven to have
Right.
been completely complicit in, Congress just talked to a bunch of them yesterday around, not protecting the individual who are using their systems. And they fall back on, what is it? Uh, there's the law around, you can't blame the platform for what's going on, the content on your social media platform. These AI algorithms that are right now behind ChatGPT and Bard and others are exactly the same ones that have been pushing QAnon theories on, on the social platforms. I
Mm.
mean, seriously. So we are, you started on who's owning us as part of being able to freely use, these services. Carrie, you touched on something inside the organization. You can say that there's de-anonymized or anonymized data in an organization, but you can also use AI to go in and de-anonymize data if you're really smart and a ne'er-do-well, right? And
Right.
so, as long as we are going to be the product, and as long as we as leaders in organizations have employees who are using products and not understanding what they're giving away of themselves and of their organization, and it's all about the data, Leon, as you've said, then we're in a world of transformation for the not for the better necessarily. And that's why I think it's so important that I feel so bad. I have my tin hat on and I'm so negative, and I am not a
Mm.
negative person, but this is how this is how I show up everywhere right now.
Mm.
Because the track record is because
Right.
we saw how it was handled. We were not impressed. We were harmed,
Mhm.
right? And it's like, then you end up getting, in addition to all the paperwork that a person has to undertake to just run a household, right? Every credit card you have, every banking relationship, every, store that you buy from online, and your doctor's office and your dentist's office and your insurance, right? It's a constant stream of paper that you become this administrator in your own house. And then now you got to keep track of your data, and you to opt out, and they really don't make it easy, because in order to opt out you have to provide all this information, so that they're like, we have to make sure it's the right person opting out. I'm like, I can assure you that there is nobody else in the world with my
Mhm.
name. You actually don't need all of this information.
Mm.
There is one Carrie Jovine in the entire world. It's true. It's not a popular last name. So I don't know. It's Fox guarding the hen house. And I mean, I'm with you. I would like to hope that humanity is leaning more towards its better angels. And I do think that there will be these really fascinating applications of AI where people actually are out there doing some good. But I'm a little concerned it's going to be like these little side stories, and it's not really going to be the protocol, right? That the protocol is going to be corrupted from the beginning, and then everyone else is just going to be trying to, oh, we're over here offering this niche product for those of you who give a crap.
Mm.
Leon, you
Yeah,
were shaking your head when she was saying
yeah, because I was
people use it for good.
I've been in this path of trying as an engineer, and I'm more like a high level person lately, and I'm looking at this thing. I started my career when most of the companies still on a paper, and
Mm.
I'm responsible to push everybody. Literally, I work for big data processing company for credit record called TRW, and then we literally tried to digitize every single credit. I don't remember if you remember credit card was using this.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, those
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So I was working on that to make digitization, so we don't need to do this anymore. So what happened is that the data that credit agencies start pulling those things used to become in a paper. It's really hard to scan. So by default, data is not centralized, right? So,
Hmm.
yes, they have all the data, but if they want to do search, you literally have to hire somebody to go down and do this thing in a file kind of somewhere. It's just not scalable. So ever since that, we are touting the benefits of digitization, make everything digital, easy to search, and so forth. What we at that time didn't realize, by doing all of this, we now centralize all the data into a few. And the culmination of it, we call it the Max 7. And by the way, if we don't stop, the Magnificent Seven gonna own everything.
Hmm.
Okay, I should have
The
taken that.
Malevolent Seven.
The
Well,
Magnificent Seven. Oh yeah.
There's another interesting piece of that too, because with edge technology and also with the expected demands that AI is expected to have on really just like capacity, right? Of how there's only so much data you can send over the internet. Maybe we're building more, fiber optic cables or whatever. Maybe we're using satellite. I don't know where the technology is going to go, but there is some discussion around more of a distributed network where the data and the computing are happening in your devices or in centers that are closer to where the work has to happen. So, if your data is in Ecuador, then your data centers are in Ecuador, and they can still be relayed up to a cloud, but at night, like when the backups are happening or something, but like during the day, your data is accessible to you quickly because it's either in an edge data center or it's in like a local device, a camera, or I don't know, a GPU that's like on site that stores that particular data just because you need it quickly until it can be saved to the cloud. So it goes back to this data architecture question, which is, to what degree is everything going to be centralized in the cloud? Even if it's fast now, is it going to be fast later when there's all these demands for AI and data? To what extent should we be moving towards an edge technology or like end user stuff? And I do think that when you talk about data security, the biggest risk comes from not hackers, employees, and their poor practices of, writing their password down on a little sticky note, or not having a good password, or not changing it very often, or not using multi-factor authentication, or leaving their laptop open, or stringing everything together and like using the same password for everything. A lot of a lot of companies try to make it really easy for employees, and so employees can be kind of passive and maybe not that knowledgeable about it. But when you think about how you're going to retool for this AI generation, you really are going to need tech savvy, like everyone. We all have to, and back in, remember when everything went subprime and then it was like, we're all subprime now, right? That was the saying. Okay, we're all techies now. We have to have some minimum base level of understanding of data and privacy and cybersecurity and architecture and hygiene practices, algorithms. You don't have to necessarily start digging into Pinker and Chomsky and trying to understand, generative grammar or something like that. But I feel like the workforce of tomorrow is going to have to be a lot savvier about tech companies. And we're all tech companies now, as Trisha likes to say.
And that's scary because the kids that are coming up, and I'm calling them kids because literally they're in the, seriously, the people that are coming into the workforce today have never known a world without data, with paper, and with, they've never known a world without algorithms that help move through the world, right? So to have data literacy or, governance around your own data, most of the folks that are coming into the workforce today are freely the products of social, freely giving away information because that's their life and their livelihood. And so, to me, Carrie, when you say, the employee of tomorrow is going to have to really be data literate, I just think, oh my gosh, let's think about the employee of tomorrow's growing up in a generation where they've never known analog. They've only known digital. And not that we should be so proud of knowing analog, for God's sake. That isn't a benefit, except where it becomes an area where you have a slight skepticism. And I think that's really, the skepticism about who's behind the requests for the data, what they do with it, how the algorithms have been tuned to keep you online incessantly without a break. I mean, I just read a study this morning, and I'm going to have to figure out how to cite it here, but there was a study that was referenced this morning that especially younger children are spending more time online than they are in real life. Every day they spend more time online than they do in real life, right? Yeah. So
that's how we're going to become the robots.
Yeah.
I think what happened is that somebody, I think data governance, it's gonna help slow down this um, problem with this centralization of data. I think centralization of data, by its definition, make that data by default is open, which is kind of scary, because what happened is that if you're the company that write this software, they can see any data in their database, right?
Right.
You know, and then now, and then you as a customer with technically your data, which is supposed to be, we all know now, it's really valuable. It should not be responsible of one single company to, guard it is security, integrity, and sharing. And what happened is that somebody has to, stop thinking data should be open as default. We should have started thinking, changing this thing. Data should be private by default. If you don't say anything, nobody can access it to it. And this is why I'm so excited with the latest technology movement right now on the separate tangent is what using cryptographic encryption, so that everybody encrypt their own data, and then the customer, the big company, any company want to access to it has to get your consent, and by default it's locked. And this is kind of like a back to paper, right? This is why it's so hard for people. Like they say, oh, we have to ask you for consent because they have to go to your file and pull one at a time. I think we should start thinking about moving from data private open as a default, which doesn't make any sense in today's age, because a person can download three terabyte on one single flop, tiny, in a disk. That doesn't make any sense. You don't put $1 million or $1 billion, in a public court, and everybody can come and pull. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? And I think, yes, we cannot solve it today, but I think this work that we're doing, data governance, and start building the grassroots at the beginning, not going to solve the problem, but at least we're going to slow the torrent down. Start thinking, letting people to have ownership of their own data, starting at the company level. But what my dream is to be able to tell everybody, say, hey, this is your data, you guard it. It's your responsibility. You encrypt it.
Like your social security card. Remember, we were given that card and it was like, stick it in your bra, don't let anyone see it, right?
Yeah.
We used to have a lot of angst around that social security card, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't that hard. Just keep it in a safe place.
Yeah, it's not that difficult, right? Especially nowadays, technology is here. I mean, heck, we can create so many crazy stuff. A rocket landed on its own. What the hell hard it is to encrypt, creating some, I don't know. I think what the next, what you're going to start seeing, there is a movement in the crypto industry that moving toward this, what they call decentralization of power. Since decentralization of data, which is equate to decentralization of power, because data equals power. And the only way we can do it is that, like a very famous movie, very good, called Pacific Rim. I tell you, we create a monster to fight a monster. The monster in this case is that if it's not done properly, it's AI. And the other monster that can stop it, it's a cryptographic individual level protection. And I kind of really excited with the movement of that section. It's like, you know what, you're not gonna get my data. You can have it, but you won't be able to read it because I encrypt the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, it's already look, at least in the US, you have a right to privacy. It wouldn't have been that hard to extend those rights to your data. Like you could have had just now the way the law works, you're gonna actually need a specific law because it's been allowed to, grow like mold. But those rights were there. The language was there for somebody to say, yeah, your data, that's very much what it means to be private, is that people don't get to know what you're doing at every second of the day and what you think about everything. But they came up with this little fiction that, well, you're using our services, and therefore, I'm like, okay, I'm using the services, therefore what? You get to pluck my eye out? Like, that's unconscionable. So now we
we
are
gotta
in a
stop
place.
giving away our data.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they knew that was never going to happen because there was an information imbalance. So they were taking advantage of that arbitrage. And,
Right.
there was a lot of money to be made. So Congress was just like, well, what? Yeah, is someone calling my name? Like, I don't see anything here. And the courts, they didn't necessarily want to legislate new law, but it's like, wait a minute, you absolutely could have had an interpretation that said this is fundamental to the right to privacy, and therefore the default is no, unless the
Mhm.
customer says yes. But we just, the way we treat the consumer, oh my God, we need you to buy stuff. Oh, also, we're taking all your data. We're not going to pay you for it. You get to use our services for free.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well,
Free.
right, free.
That's right.
I just take your
that's the
soul
issue.
out of it, and then I take your DNA, I take all the information. It's free.
Yeah, but they don't tell you that, back in the background, they're going to like connect up with Cambridge Analytica and they're going to build a whole dossier on you. And then Russians are going to get a hold of it. And next thing you know, you're like accused of peeing on someone,
Yeah.
or whatever
I used
what that issue was. It's like, really? Come on now.
Yeah, I used to remember that Google has this slogan called "Thou shalt not be evil" or something like
Right.
that.
Remember that?
Golden rule, do unto other.
And
Yeah, that was
we
Google.
need
Don't be
some new
evil.
slogan say that "Thou cannot be evil," because I'm by default you have no access to my data. You won't be evil, and that's I think "shall." It's correct me if wrong. It's a legal word for maybe. No.
Yeah. Well,
Well, lawyers can debate that for hours, and it's a very boring debate.
No, I don't think so.
so Leon, you mentioned you have this. I'd like to steer because we're at the top of the hour, and I'm going to stop recording for a minute because I think this is the part where we'll talk futures a little bit. Is that okay?